It is the false start to January has kicked into full gear now with the transfer of power here in Washington, D.C. What a wild week to get to. I know we squeezed in one or two. This may be number 3 already in 2025. But we've got Biden exiting. We've got ceasefire in Gaza. We've got pardons for the whole family. Then the new game loading. We got crypto balls. We got new 100 and some executive orders. Some may be constitutional. Some may not be. And we've got maybe Nazi salutes from Elon. I mean, you can't write it. You can't write this stuff.
You can't write it. And then, as one last sort of to put the cherry on top of this surreal Sunday, is the Doge dog
Oh yeah.
coin icon appears on the official government website for the Department of Government Efficiency. It
It has
literally,
a
like you say,
website.
you has a website. You can't write it better.
Grab a drink. It's time for another episode of Off the Record on the Rocks. Join Michael Toner and Ankarina Lara as we discuss the latest in all things Web3, AI, metaverse, and crypto. Tune out the noise and turn up the signal as we pour ourselves into the future. Better make mine a double.
All those things that you just said, but let's just go all the way back. So the crypto ball is where we left it. We had luminaries coming, black tie, DC, Friday night, invite only, but you still had to pay $2,500 to show up.
And I saw Michael Saylor was wearing his Bitcoin orange bow tie. I mean, look, the visuals are just insane to see, to think about the conversation that's going on. And literally in the middle of this black tie affair, you've got the dirty work happening with the Trump token literally getting dropped Friday night. This thing goes to $1 billion market cap. I think it's peaked out at maybe 60, 80. I don't know what it ran to. I know it's retraced back a little bit. But 3 days before inauguration, the night of the first crypto ball, the first crypto-friendly president taking office, right in this gray transition period. I think Gensler had already officially stepped down. You're getting new nominations and hearings to confirm new SEC chairs and who's going to take on these new positions. Just right in that dirty time frame. That's a good time to launch a token and send it to the moon for $1 billion. Oh, and by the way, let's get Doge.gov set up. I mean, unbelievable. They're setting up shop. I heard this morning Elon's getting an office in the executive building near the West Wing of the White House, and they're getting to work on this government efficiency. But yeah, crypto balls dropping a token and Doge in DC.
And I thought that there was another kind of a little bit of like the hiding of the real stories, because there's a lot of rah-rah and everything you just said. And then you get to the original kind of the duality that was supposed to exist, and in the Department of Government Efficiency, there was supposed to be Ramaswamy and Musk, and
Okay.
to kind of have this partnership of, a non-American citizen and an American politician, and both very much in technology, each with their own sort of separate paths to get them there. And then just a little announcement. Oh, you know what? Ramaswamy, he
He's busy.
really loves the idea of being the governor of Ohio. Talk about steering into another meme, which Musk, who loves memes, was so excited to say, oh yeah, he's just going back to, focus on becoming the governor of Ohio. But the backdrop is, you've had H-1B visas in the spotlight. You've had question marks as to, should technology companies still be allowed to bring in people from foreign countries who have special expertise. There's, two different opinions as to whether or not that's a good thing or a bad thing. However, if you push out Ramaswamy, well, then you don't actually have to talk anymore about that, because it just to me felt like a real little dirty shell game of, we're telling you about this whole cast of characters. Remember, we talked about Trump TV. We talked about the cast of characters being introduced. Each one with these new, some of them taking old jobs, some taking new jobs. And then we're just going to quietly say, oh, you know, sorry, he got voted off the island before he even got to the island.
Yeah,
It was
it's like
just,
the casting call sheet got posted and Vivek got sent back to the D line over there to be the governor of Ohio.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean I think that holds up in terms of, I know I made the prediction about Trump and Elon, and I still think it's worth the discussion, and will continue to be a discussion about these two. But here were this Batman and Robin, of crypto, of technology, of government efficiency, and all of a sudden Robin just got sent to go run for governor in Ohio. We really need you there in Ohio as governor, Vivek. I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it definitely
ridiculous.
felt a little dirty. And then on top of everything else you're saying with Elon, I mean, just the maybe in some ways, moving the celebration into the rotunda was one of the best things that could have happened, because maybe outdoors with the volume of people, it becomes more of a circus. There was sort of definitely a tightness of the shots. If we're going to continue this metaphor of creating the TV angle, you know, what you don't do you need to have people outside finding the angles to make it look like the largest inauguration in history? Well, no, now we don't. Now we just go inside and go tight, go Netflix cam, tight on people's faces with the rotunda in the background, tight with the painting, tight with the flag. No drone flying back shots to try to pretend to show you that every seat was filled, out on the mall. So I thought, regardless of the weather being the factor, it was very smart TV to make it tight, make it intimate, and then make like a whole how many pardons? Forget the friends and family from Biden.
Oh,
I want to say every single rioter was pardoned, regardless of how their crimes. So
yeah.
just the undoing of so many taut ropes felt like a little bit of a. It kind of makes you like hold your breath for a second for the American government. It's like, wow, are we really going to undo everything
Yeah,
and then start fresh? It's a hard reset, like you said, hard reset.
hard reset. I mean, I think it was one of the things I was most anticipating and most excited about, was that tight shot of these billionaires, this oligarchy forming in DC. And in fact, it's probably one of my favorite memes coming out of this tight shot, where you've got Zuckerberg, you've got Bezos, you've got Sidar from Google. You've got Tim Cook over there on the edge, but Musk getting busted staring at Lauren Sanchez's chest. This is Jeff Bezos's new wife, girlfriend. I don't know. I guess they're married now, but she was wearing a very low cut racy bra, and I loved the computer vision, the AI, if you will, that just got zoomed in on all of their faces and like who was looking at who. And there is no doubt he snuck in a little sneak peek there at Lauren Sanchez. I mean, you can't make that meme up either.
No, you can't make that one up. And I didn't see was Satya Nadella there, Microsoft? I didn't know if I saw him. I know I saw
Uh,
Sundar Pichai from
I,
Google, but I don't know if I saw. It would be weird if he wasn't, or at least someone at a high level. But I didn't notice him.
let's look.
Um, but also, just as you talk about that too, one of the things I think we got right is there was no way they're going to shut down TikTok. But what I think we got wrong is that it wasn't going to
Oh
be
God.
just quickly sold to one of those guys in the room. Like there was no announcement like TikTok, and by the way, it's his. But I thought one of the interesting things that plays really into our narrative, and again to the narrative from our last recording, which was what was buried when Zuckerberg was on the Rogan Experience. Well, he was on the Rogan Experience going off about the Biden administration and their censoring of information on Facebook and Meta platforms. But then he also buried just a nice little, hey, I'm laying off, almost 10,000 people type of a story. And why? Well, I think most people would think, well, AI is a fundamental part of a strategy, at least of all of these companies. And that's going to come at the expense of some humans. You can't just add AI and then add more cost without realizing you're going to have to add prompting engineers, and you don't maybe need those VPs of engineering that draw, insane six-figure salaries. In some cases at Meta, probably seven figures from if you were there long enough. So the one twist that I thought was quite interesting is these AI companies coming in and saying, hey, we'll do the partnership with TikTok. We let us come in and do the collab co-ownership. So Perplexity was recently in the news
See that?
for basically coming in and saying, hey, since since we're now all past this idea that using AI as a means for regulating or monitoring the social networks, we're long past saying that that's a bad idea or a good idea. It's the idea, and we're moving forward with it. Zuckerberg said we are. Everyone says we are. No more humans monitoring content. It's going to be AI. So we all say, look at each other. Okay, so who's going to own TikTok? And everyone's kind of looking at each other. And the AI guys say, well, wait a second. Maybe TikTok needs a nice layer of AI instead of Chinese censors or American censors or whomever. And that collab is enough to tell whoever is pissed, is it the DOJ? Is it the DOD? I don't even know. Enough that we're moving it on sides and saying, okay, it's no longer a Chinese company per se. It may still be owned by China, but it is regulated by American AI.
What an
Because
interesting take.
what an interesting concept. Like, could I have a Japanese car, like a Nissan, that has American AI in it? Well, that suddenly sounds very much American to me. Hey, good news. We're making these Subarus in Tennessee. Anyway, so I found that twist of the lens to be fascinating. And maybe American AI is that power feature that we use to kind of manifest destiny our way into competing governments' software programs.
I did see a couple of takes. One, I saw one of those executive orders was Trump revoking Biden's executive order on addressing AI risk. So the 2023 executive order that Biden, which sought to reduce the risks of artificial intelligence and what it is going to mean across workers and consumers and from national security perspective and all of that, now that's been undone. Does that pave the way to do exactly what you just described? And then, not to gloss over it, but the TikTok ban. I mean, the amount of media coverage, the amount of American energy, human energy wasted talking about whether or not TikTok was going to go away, who was going to buy it, and then the everybody posting the image of Trump, Trump, we're working with the incoming administration, with the incoming President Trump. And then once it is fixed, literally, he got whatever pandas he traded to get that advertisement onto TikTok. He is now the savior of TikTok. And everyone's so happy that free speech has been saved, quote unquote, on TikTok. Although I have seen some rumors, I haven't verified and got to do my own research here, but some interesting rumors of some shadow banning happening and some regional restriction on, you look up the word dictator, you look up the word Nazi salute, certain things not showing up in the American search algorithm on the old TikTok. Like talking one side of your mouth about freedom of speech right out of the other, as long as it's my AI that controls the overall compliance with this platform, then I don't care really what you say, as long as it's my AI that has oversight of it. I mean,
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
watching it happen.
That is exactly that's exactly what I'm steering into when I talk about American AI, and it's something we actually, I think, need to qualify. We're going to need to qualify. We know that Gemini, we know that OpenAI, which is ChatGPT, we know that Claude AI and a bunch of these other ones. These are primarily American created AI because they're being developed at American companies. But I'm being serious when I talk about this notion of manifest destiny, that the United States has a long history of deciding something in the world is important to them. And that's the first step. Then the second step is, okay, well, now I want it. America wants to go get it. That's the second step. The third step is one, two, three. What's the activation? Well, hey, let's talk about Panama. Let's talk about Greenland. Those are things that keep coming up. Those are countries, or at least protected areas owned by a European country in the case of Greenland. But in the old days, we'd say, okay, we want to go down and get this canal. we declare manifest destiny, and then the military goes down and we get the canal, and we go take the president and put him in jail, and we just make it ours. Why? Well, manifest destiny. And how? And what is the apparatus that enforces that? Well, it's the military. Okay, so now we fast forward however many decades, and now it's okay. Well, there's this thing called TikTok, and it's really advantageous for me as an incoming administrator, as an entire incoming new government, to save it because well, there was some statistic. I don't even know if it's real or not, but however many millions of Americans have TikTok shops and I guess make some amount of money selling things the way you might at Facebook Marketplace. Who knows what it really is? But it sounds really un-American if you're going to go and take away TikTok, because that's how this poor guy who's out in front of the Capitol building with his little poster card saying like, "You're stealing my revenues. I can't support my family." So I feel like there was this manifest destiny-esque declaration of, well, you can't really drive the military over to China. Even if you couldn't get there and then get TikTok, right? It's not a thing to go get that the military can just go get. So what do you create? Well, it's the American AI. It's our new weaponized branch of the cybersecurity arm of the American government, somehow related to Doge. I'm sure somehow related to Space Force. There's definitely humans, Americans who are in military gear, who are figuring out the way to use our American AI to effectively manifest destiny our way into foreign countries' software. That is a new tactic that we're going to see, I think, flexed over this next 4 years like crazy.
Well, I don't even know how to pull all that apart, but I think the AI having, the interests, the American interests wired in to its being, into the code, right? We already agreed we're not going to let the AIs decide who's going to push the nuclear button, but at every other level, let's talk about ships going through the Panama Canal. Do you think there's really a human there saying this ship can come in, this ship can come in? No, they're tracking the ships. They're on a map. They're coordinates on a dot plot. And when they get close, they maybe scan the ship. They know it's the ship. The satellite's scanning it. It's letting it into the first dock. Guess what that screams to me, which is computer-driven efficiency. I mean, the locks are already controlled by sophisticated physical algorithms, but why not have the AI control who comes and goes and who's allowed in and how much is allowed on the ship and what it can weigh and how many people can be on it and what kinds of products can be on the boat? As long as that AI is American made and it has the American interests in heart, then by default, we own the canal.
There you go. Full stop. So now let's take this thought experiment to that next place, which is now the AI, which is American in this case, which has fully optimized the locks that move the ships, the scanning of the ships and the contents, take away the guesswork, take away the spot check to see, gosh, is this ship just full of guns or is it actually full of corn and diapers? Take away all the guessing there and now say, okay, well, this really works. Now we're going to go ahead and take a look at the Department of Justice. And let's apply the exact same AI and see how many people do we need in this Department of Justice? Or let's turn it to the IRS. Remember when Gary Gensler, there's a big jump. Remember Gary Gensler is sitting there and he goes to Congress and says, I need $3 billion more dollars. Why does the head of the SEC need $3 billion more dollars? Well, we need to hire, what was the number? Like 20,000 more IRS agents?
Attorneys. I just don't.
Or attorney. It
Yes.
was some like insane number of either IRS tax agents or attorneys, like 20,000 or whatever, some insane number. And you better believe the AI is going to start looking at Securities and Exchange Commission, all these appointed and non-elected type of functions that we have. The raw spreadsheets that we went through off the government website. I mean, you remember,
I remember
30, 40, 50 pages, thousands of people's names and email addresses and phone numbers you could call. You better believe that the AI is going to take a long look at that and decide, maybe we just need some AI who can help move, interested parties through a system, ultimately getting to a human when you actually need a conversation. Maybe there's a phone tree coming to the government in the way that we have when we call AT&T or we call our bank. Maybe you call them, hi, This is the American government. Are you A, looking to file, a fraud claim because of your taxes? B, interested in, and you're going to have that in some way, shape, or form. And I think that we're only now seeing the beginnings of the American AI becoming a weaponized way to basically justify America's behavior. And we've never had that because before it was, well, Mark Zuckerberg just decided, a human, to lay off almost 10,000 humans. But tomorrow we're going to hear, oh, no, no, no. It was American AI called Llama and Gemini that made the decision to lay off these humans. It wasn't me, Mark Zuckerberg. It was our American AI, which you love so much.
Well, and or it's the Doge dog, right? It literally is this going to be this cute little fluffy meme that's going to be able to talk to you and show up on your computer and be like, "I'm so sorry, your job has been eliminated by the Department of Government Efficiency. Woof woof. Here you can find your new job." I mean, literally, like it's going to be your companion when it fires you, the AI bot by Doge. I just
You're so right. And it's going to say, but between now and your new hire, here's 20 Doge. It's going to
yeah,
give you it's going to fill your wallet with some Doge the same way it's going to sort of smack you on the butt on the way out with a little thumb drive full of Doge. Sorry, you've been here 30 years, but your pension, you missed it by 2. You needed 32 years. Here's some Doge.
I'm gonna then make a wild connection here, but Trump rolling out his own cryptocurrency business, that's interesting with his own meme tokens, with Trump token and Melania token, and Barron got his own token. But take everything we just talked about in the context of this World Liberty Financial, this crypto venture that is really a DeFi protocol that Trump is rolling out his own cryptocurrency business. And I think he launched the meme token on Friday night. I think he divested all of his interest on Saturday. He went to church on Sunday, asked for forgiveness, and then became the president on Monday. All of that money now are tokenized assets that, in my opinion, couldn't you create some efficiency when all of a sudden you have a tokenized Federal Reserve? And does that now create some competition for this kind of tokenized Federal Reserve? Does that put the Bitcoin strategic reserve back into the picture? And then all of this, to try to make sense of it, we're starting to hear rumors just in the past 48 hours of new ETF applications, XRP ETF, Solana ETF, all of the Trump coin itself now applying for an ETF, because if we know that all these other tokenized assets have already been turned into electronic traded products by the Fidelities of the world, we know you can go and buy Bitcoin and the Grayscale Ethereum ETF, and why not these others? But doesn't that put Trump in a very interesting position to redefine what the Federal Reserve means in the United States, and maybe more the World Bank and the IMF? If we're talking about going and buying Greenland or going and controlling the Panama Canal, maybe there's a different mechanism to do that, or in partnership with the AI and the efficiency that the AI, but these privately owned tokens to fund these projects. I don't know. It's weird to think about and to dissect, but I do think that the Fed is now going to be in the crosshairs. I think you're seeing Trump has already launched a crypto task force here in DC. This is on day 2, a second day in office, that the SEC is creating a task force to develop clear regulations for the industry, just as out of the left hand, Trump and Melania and Barron and Ivanka with their meme coins over here setting up a World Liberty Financial DeFi protocol. Like, it's weird to me to think how they're going to use that power.
Yeah, and I actually don't know if they know how to use the power versus just wanting to put a chip on the table and stay in the game. But something that you just said, what's interesting to me is that for our listeners, when we talk about meme coins or altcoins, or sometimes just ship coins, which is a mispronunciation of the bad word shit coins, we're talking now that there are hundreds of thousands and millions of them. It's easy to copy, paste, and launch a coin. You don't have to know anything about anything. So surprise, surprise, out of all of those opportunities, which are the ones that are getting any light of day? Well, it turns out that they're the projects. When people talk about projects, literally, that was the original idea of cryptography, that you have a project, there is a purpose. You're offering a service, you have a new product, you have a new something. It is a project that you are spending time working on, and over time would often show a roadmap to your followers or listeners and say, here's what we're trying to do with this. We're trying to create a disintermediated way to store files on the internet. And that's why it's called Filecoin. And you don't have to use Google Drive. You can use this new thing. It's a project, right? It has a purpose. So it's so funny how the projects of all of those guys who are up in the rotunda are the ones that are actually getting consideration. We talk about Solana. Is Solana a real project? Well, it's definitely funded by venture capitalists in Silicon Valley, and for a while was called like the new faster Ethereum that was really great for gaming. Like that was kind of how they sort of came out. And now they're talking Solana ETFs at banks right alongside Bitcoin and Ether, which it's hard to even describe what Ether is as a project beyond being sort of like a playground sandbox for other coins. So I almost wonder if you say, well, everything related to the government, well, yeah, that's going to be Doge. And everything related to the strategic national reserve, which bolsters our actual, national reserve of money, well, that will be Bitcoin. But when we're dealing with these guys in Canada and Mexico, well, Ethereum. And when we're going to be dealing with the Panama Canal, well, it's just going to be Solana because we're going to, there might just be these odd little square pegs, round holes, and they're just going to ram them in because they know the human who's involved and the government knows, well, if we ever have to squeeze Solana and the people who run it, or squeeze XRP and people who run Ripple, they know who those people are because they were sitting on the stage during the inauguration. So they would never put, I don't think you'd put anything to chance. These are all humans that the United States government for these next 4 years and in perpetuity will be able to control because they know who you are, who your family is, and where you live. Bitcoin is something totally separate. There are no offices, no phone numbers. There's no one to call. It's just technology. So I think that there's going to be an interesting separation of like use of government projects, likely everything but Bitcoin. And then they're just going to steer Bitcoin into the strategic reserve. But the only way you tame it is by making ETFs, right? Is finding other derivative products.
Well, I will continue on this thread while shifting gears and we can start to wrap it up. But one thing that stuck out to me this week after the election, after the inauguration, all the planes, anybody who's anybody here in DC flying to Davos for the World Economic Forum. And the big quote for me today was Bank of America CEO Brian Moynihan saying that we would embrace crypto payments as long as there's clear regulation. If the regulators allow it, he said. I just think take everything we just said, take all these ETFs, all these products, the new SEC crypto to create new regulation. It's sort of like, well, but it already is now legal. Trump himself just launched a meme coin that's going to file for an ETF. Of course, the banks are going to want to embrace this. And to your point, I think it's going to end up being XRP within the banking sector. There is this ISO protocol that needs to be updated, the National Automated Clearinghouse that needs to be updated to be able to pay your taxes through FedNow using a real-time payment mechanism. I think the banks are already setting up to do this, but now the headlines start coming out of Davos that Bitcoin and crypto, a new dawn is rising for digital currencies. Thanks to who? Trump.
And if we start today and we know this is going to just only roll forward, then it would stand to reason that every president is going to have a coin and they're going to tokenize pretty much their entire Oval Office. And then over time, start to see the relative popularity and power of these different administrations based on the long tail of, of the ledger. The long tail ledger is not going to lie. And, all these coins and all these things are great. I think my hope is that through the excitement of basically going from 0 to 100 miles an hour in a Tesla right towards the crypto Xanadu, that we all for a second realize that this is going to give a chance, at least, to have a lot of people out there who remain unbanked, who people who you have challenges getting loans to buy things like cars and houses. If you are unhoused, you actually can't have a bank account because you need an address to receive mail. There's a lot that will, in theory, hopefully democratize access to wealth. Now, I say that out of one side of my mouth, but out of the other side, I hope that this isn't just taken and abused by literally every single person in government, the same way they've taken and abused their power with things like, insider trading on stock markets and such. There's obviously a lot of opportunity to be corrupt and enrich themselves, but I hope that at least as part of the energy behind this, it is validating cryptocurrency and technology as something that people shouldn't be scared of, but that we should embrace. And hopefully that will open up more innovation just in the States generally. That's my hopes for as we see things rolling into this year and in the next couple of years, and not that we just watch more politicians just get richer off of products that they fully control.
Well, I think that's one to watch. Watch Nancy Pelosi's portfolio, not financial advice, but she was making moves, and I think she had to file some paperwork there right leading up to inauguration. And it's fascinating that there is if you were at that crypto ball, you're getting information about what is being implemented, whether it's across AI or across blockchain or the intersection of these two things, which to me continues to be my thesis of where you're going to see crypto really hit the mainstream as a solution for generative AI, a solution to put your money on the blockchain to state where that value is, whether that's a meme token that I'm investing in because of its longevity, or if it's paying my electric bill into a city, an on-chain city fund where everyone can see everyone else's contribution. Talk about efficiencies to be gained. It's day one, day two of a new presidential administration. It's going to continue to get weird, I think, and just to continue watching what happens. There's going to be a lot more noise. I guess when I say it's going to get weird, it's going to continue to be a lot more noise. It's going to be hard to discern what action is actually taking place when there's more than 100 executive orders. It's hard to tell which ones are going to be prioritized, which ones actually move, which ones are unconstitutional and cannot move forward. We will try to make sense of all of it here. Any early predictions or just early takes this
Well,
post
one
inauguration?
last take, I'll say two last takes. One, right now, cryptography and cryptocurrencies and AI aren't obviously linked. There is something about the transparency of cryptography, which is fun and good, and we all love the idea of it being transparent on the blockchain. AI is the opposite. AI is obfuscated, secret, and no one really knows what's going on behind the scenes. So I wonder if those two things are going to collide. That'd be a nice nexus. The other nexus, I think, is going to only serve to make things more entertaining as we roll through the rest of these next few months towards, into this beginning of this first year. But it's also going to make it really hard to discern what is real from what is perhaps fake. I noticed, and we talked about this, we joked, but the nomination of John Voight, Sylvester Stallone, and wait for it, Mel Gibson as special Hollywood envoys to the current administration is got to be one of the weirdest things that also happens. So now, I mean, I used to joke when I was younger, gosh, wouldn't it be nice if Denzel Washington could give the presidential speech instead of someone who's not really good at speaking and acting? And we'd all laugh and go, oh, there'll never be an actor or a TV person up there. And now we're like, wait a second. There could be a scenario where live from the Oval Office, giving the address, is Mel Gibson. And he's just going to be sitting there doing the president thing. I'm sure he's played the president on TV at least once. So I feel like there's now these collisions that don't make sense. Cryptography and AI, transparent, obfuscated, colliding. Hollywood, and the government used to never collide. They're polar opposites, right? But now, interthreaded. So for me, it's going to be most important for us to keep on it. The signal is going to be muted and the noise is going to be loud. And so it's going to be on us to kind of parse it. But I'm looking forward to it.
I love it. We'll
Up
do
for
it
the
again.
challenge.
We'll do it again next week, sir.
Talk to you soon.
That's all the time we have for this episode of Off the Record, on the Rocks. Join us next week for more news and all things Web3. Check, please.